Welcome back, everyone. Today I have another song analysis video for you guys. I'm going to be doing The Land of Nod off of Descendants of Cain by Ka. Almost done this album. This has been a lot of content. These videos have been way longer than I expected, but they've been a ton of fun. So let's hop right into this song. The chorus starts with no sample to start this song. The chorus starts with, "You can tell I'm in fact a native. I live this vivid shit. I ain't that creative." And then that repeats one time. So basically, he's just saying here, like, you can tell by how I'm writing these lyrics that I, in fact, did live this stuff. This stuff actually did happen to me. I'm not just rapping about whatever just to be braggadocious. I lived this vivid shit. I'm not that creative. I'm not creative enough to actually come up with this stuff and lie about it. And you can tell by like the imagery he has in his lyrics that this guy did see some stuff. As I get older, I can start to tell that a little bit more and more in hip hop artists. As a kid, you just hear it and you just kind of buy it. But as you get older, you start to weed out the ones that are lying. So, verse 1. Had to repel calm to get things clicking. Basically just saying here, like, he had to put away the calm life, the easy life, the lazy life, the life that so many of us live every day, of just being calm, letting things roll over us, and not fighting back against the matrix or reality or whatever you want to call it. To actually get things going in your life, you're going to have to put down that kind of passive attitude and, get things clicking. Backpack to Belmont with Slim Pickens. Said what up to cuz. It's love for there was anything crippin'. This one I'm not entirely sure what it means. I think it's just saying like he was making friends with both sides before the gang violence. That's what I assume from crippin' and saying what up cuz it's love. That's just what I'm assuming from this line, but I'm not entirely sure what he meant by it. Again, as always, if you guys have any ideas what these lines mean, let me know in the comments. I can't hit them all out of the park. Did over 40 foul winters. I ain't no spring chicken. I love this way of saying that like somebody's old. In The Two Towers by Tolkien, there's a brilliant part where they're getting ready for the Battle of Helm's Deep, and somebody says, most of these men have seen too many winters and some of them too few. And I thought that was a brilliant way of saying like some of these guys are too old, some of them are too young, without saying old, young, or their ages by number. And I think, did over 40 foul winters is like a cool way of saying like he's over 40 years old. I ain't no spring chicken, winters or winters and spring play off each other there in a cool way. No arrest, just a few court summons. So Ka's never been arrested, just summoned to court a few times, which good. Got someone to long for me after knowing my shortcomings. Yeah, that's what we all are trying to look for in life, I think, right? Is somebody who knows our flaws and still longs for us. I think long is a good word there because it's like loving long, like wanting to know more, even though the person's full of snakes, still wanting to dig deep and play the long game. I think that's brilliant wordage there. Yeah, that's the main thing you want in life. You don't want to get into a relationship where you're like hiding all your flaws all the time and trying so hard to keep the skeletons in the closet where they just start falling out, and then you can't control it, and then the person leaves you heartbroken or vice versa. Yeah, awesome line there. Death toll highest when hot. I'm wishing for short summers. So summer is playing off of that winter and spring line. Death tolls highest when it's hot. I think this is just kind of, I can speak to the opposite of this because I live in Canada, and in the winters, that's when people are the most friendly. That's when, people buy coffee for the people behind them in the Tim Hortons lineup, and people shovel snow out of other people's driveways or brush off their cars. Sometimes in traffic, we'll get out of our car and dust off somebody's back windshield. Pulling people out of ditches too, just like stuff like that just we come together because the cold is so bad it might kill us all. We have to like pick each other up. So I assume the opposite of that when you're in summer. Temperatures are high, tensions are high, People are hot and uncomfortable, and more arguments break out, more violence breaks out. And trust is a must before we could talk numbers. I mean, yeah, that's true in the drug dealing game. You got to be able to trust the guy before you're talking about money or you're talking about moving stuff around. But that applies for everything in life. Like you got to be able to trust somebody before you exchange money with them. I hope that makes sense to everyone. But yeah, I delete the doctrine of retreat's an option. Just a cool way of saying, like, we never fall back, we never retreat. I delete the doctrine of retreat's an option. Oh man, just brilliant penmanship by Ka. Must defend. If it up to them, we'd be lock eating toxin. So I think this is just like in reference to, policing and politics, I guess, at large, that he feels like he has to defend himself physically. Otherwise, if it was up to them, they'd all be locked up eating toxin, either just, bad food or pills, or a lot of things could fill the word toxin there. But yeah, I mean, what comes to mind is like the Jews during the 30s of like not defending themselves and then getting locked up. So I see some truth to that, although I don't think you should be fighting cops, but defending yourself is obviously necessary. Yeah. Some of these lines are just tough. They're so politically charged. Flaming tool in plain view, could never let the cops in. So a flaming tool, I think what this means is like a gun that's been used. I think that's accurate. So a flaming tool, so a gun that's been used out in plain sight, just like sitting on the table, so the cops could never come in, which is problematic, to say the least. At least 1 foot in the squares, what we revere as boxing. So boxing, 1 foot in the square, sometimes coaches will like draw a square or put a hula hoop down, and both fighters have to put 1 foot in, and then you basically just swing. So it's basically teaching you like, don't retreat, don't move, don't back up. Like, we're here to fight, so fight inside the pocket. I don't know how many gyms do that anymore because it can be dangerous, but it is a good tactic to learn how to fight in the pocket. So I assume that he's just saying like the fighting that he does in the streets, the violence in the streets, is fighting in the pocket, kind of referring back to the retreat's not an option line. When you have 1 foot in the square, you can't retreat, right? So string, itchy fingers where they act rash. Itchy trigger fingers where they act rash. Could tell I had a whack past. I think he's just saying that he's from somewhere where, string, itchy fingers. Maybe this is saying like people on drugs or people dealing drugs just shot people too quickly, did murder too quickly. You could tell I had a whack past. I mean, yeah, seeing murder in any circumstance is going to be extremely traumatic. And if you see it constantly, I can't even imagine what that does to your mind. The opponent every waking moment trying to stack cash. This is a cool line because it brings me back to that Mike Tyson line when he's talking like, I would get up at like 4 a.m. and train because I know somebody else out there is sleeping, so I got to get out there and work when he's not working. I think that's kind of what he's saying here in the reverse. Like, the opponent every waking moment is trying to stack cash, so the people against him are stacking up their money, which is making them stronger and more powerful, so he's got to get on it. Come through bricks, new whipped, equipped for backlash. Come through bricks, new whip, equipped for backlash. This is like a little bit all over the place, but I'm assuming this means like having bricks on you to throw through new cars or something like that. I mean, backlash is also a car term. I don't know. Some of these lines are just too creative for me to break down. Then we get back to the chorus. You can tell I'm in fact a native. I live this vivid shit. I ain't that creative. And then verse 2. Fiends took grams as we shook hands. So I assume a lot of you guys know that famous, handshake, pass the drugs off sort of thing. Because neither was a fair shake. brilliant little follow-up line. It wasn't a fair handshake because, well, one person is getting the drugs that they want, it's ruining their lives, and the other person's getting the money, but now they're a drug dealer, and if you get caught for drug dealing, that's a long prison sentence. So both are bad, but not fairly bad, if that makes any sense. So it's definitely not a fair shake. Already living with prisoners, I couldn't be scared straight. Awesome line there. So living with prisoners is like just living in Brownsville. People around him were either former convicts or soon to be convicts. And when you're living around people like that constantly, how are you supposed to be scared straight? For those of you who don't know, there was a show on television a while ago now called Scared Straight, where they would take young kids who were kind of going down a bad path, stealing a lot, stuff like that. They bring them to a prison, and having them around the prisoners trying to scare them all the time would sometimes scare them straight back onto the right path, so they stop doing criminal activity. But that's not going to work on somebody who lives around dangerous, prisoners, criminals all the time. It's just a cool line there to paint the imagery of what it's like to grow up where he did. Don't invite friends over because never had a spare plate. That's a tough line. That's a tough line. I mean, as a kid, I had a pretty high standard for cooking at home, coming from a French background maybe, but I always had, really, really amazing meals from my parents. So when I went over to other kids' houses sometimes, whatever their parents would cook up, I'd be kind of like, I don't want to eat that. And I had to learn the lesson, like, no, you eat it. They're giving you food to be nice. They're feeding you. Like, you have to be courteous about that, whether the food's good or bad or however it compares to what you have at home. So learning that lesson, I very much valued when other people would feed me, as we all should. I mean, that's one of the best gifts you can get is food, really. So when you don't have enough food for when your friends come over, that can be hard because you want your friends to come over, you want to hang out with them, but when you're scared to invite them over because you don't have enough food even for yourself, that's tough, man. It's not something I've ever lived through, but whew, that's tough. Again, just brilliant imagery. Anyone who made it out of here, I wouldn't dare hate. So no matter how they made it out, whether it took them a long time, took them prison sentences or whatever, however you made it out, can't hate you for that, right? He has no hate for people who made it out, because these neighborhoods can be like literally hell, like literal hell, if you haven't picked up already by all the brilliant lines he's put out here. Generally outgoing, but around the decoy. Malaise most days, but years before I speak joy. The years before I speak joy line is kind of brilliant because I feel this. Like, the things I say on my channel right now are mostly thoughts that I had a year ago or a couple years ago that I've just now been able to articulate well. The thoughts that I have now, I don't speak yet because I don't know how to exactly say them yet, if that makes any sense. So I save them for later, and maybe a couple of years from now I'll be able to talk about what I'm thinking about now. I hope that makes sense, but it does relate to this line because, like, taking by years before I speak joy, so he's taking his time to like craft the good things to say. I think the best things you say in life, the most truthful things, do take time to craft. Maybe not years, but they do take time to craft and to say right, because you have to get the words right. That's important. And when you're just speaking frivolously, like we all do with our friends, every one of us, when we hang out with our friends, just things come out of our mouths that even we're like, what did I just say? So what they profess is estrogen. I don't eat soy. Yeah. That's just a funny way of like saying what's being put out in the media today is weak, and estrogen, soy, he's kind of just playing there off of that. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but the next line kind of helps here. And I can't party when they party trying to kill each boy. I think he's speaking here to like killing the masculinity in men, which I mean, if you're on any social media today, I think you can see that complex situation of, yeah, masculinity's at an all-time low. You look at things statistically, I mean, men aren't having families anymore. They're more lonely and depressed than ever. Men's suicide rates are high. So I think this is in reference to that. I think it's in reference to the demasculization of men, if that's what you call it. Tough. Tough line there. Moses to the hose learnt from burning bush. What? What? Moses to the hose learned from burning bush. I'm not exactly sure what he meant by that. I mean, I'm assuming hose and bush have some sort of weird connection, but had to have some pull before I could turn and push. Now, this line I really like. I think that this is brilliant writing. So, had to have some pull. So, had to have like some sort of influence over people in my life before I could turn and push. So, I feel this myself that sometimes I need to build a platform. I need to build the influence, build the following first before I can really turn and push against the people that are following me and have made up my community and put those ideas out there that are more controversial, I guess, because I think that's the goal of every creator, whether you're more artistic like a musician or whether you're more just, speaking on camera like I'm doing now. You need to like garnish some influence first before you get those ideas out. And those ideas, the contentious ones, are the important ones because one, they're most unique to you in a way, and two, it's important to have that push and pull. Now, you don't want to push too far and like upset people to the point where you're universally canceled. I mean, sometimes you're canceled by a small group of people, but sometimes you're kind of like universally canceled. I think Bill Cosby is a decent example of that. But you don't want to not saying that his situation relates exactly to what I'm saying, but you get the point. Like, you don't want to push too hard until you've actually garnished some of that influence, and I definitely feel that. Some of my more controversial ideas I don't want to put out there quite yet. I want to put out there when there's more of a mass of people, and then I can get pushback from different sides, and then really kind of shape my ideas more. I think it's a useful tool too to have an audience. Not everybody's going to have one, right? Not everybody in life is going to have a platform or have an audience or have a speaking stage. It's a lot easier now with YouTube. Anybody can buy a camera and make videos, but not everybody's going to have a platform. But it is a useful tool to have an audience give feedback to you, because when you have thousands of people commenting on what you said, you really get like the most possible information on what you said. Now, you don't want to focus too much on a negative comment and get down on yourself, obviously, but you want to take it all in and then hopefully learn from the collective unconscious, or at least a part of it that makes up society. So, bit of a rant there, but I think that that's just a brilliant line. Was on the corner by night confirmed as rooks, but made more in the job than was earned as crooks. So, on the corner by night confirmed as rooks. Rooks, obviously, chess reference. Ka has a whole album with chess references, called The Queen's Gambit or The Knight's Gambit. Might do that album in the future. And it's also a reference to The Wire. The TV show The Wire uses chess more frequently than you think. It definitely, like, there's the famous scene in the first season, but later in other seasons there's like references to that scene that are brilliant, and I think some of that is here. I don't want to spoil The Wire for anybody who hasn't seen it, but it's like the greatest TV show ever made. Go watch it. But made more in a job than was earned as crook. So he earned more from a legitimate job than he did as a crook. I assume that's what he's saying, which is true. Even if at the beginning a drug dealer seems like he's making a lot more money than a minimum wage worker, if a minimum wage worker works his ass off, in 6 months to a year, he can become a manager. And if you're a manager at even a McDonald's, like, you're going to be making decent money. And it's honest, true money, real money that can't be taken away from you, that can't be robbed from you or taken away by the cops. So I think that's just what that line means. Put part of me in the art like I'm pendant an appendage, invested since the beginning. In the end, I want percentage. So brilliant rhyming there. Brilliant rhyming. It sounds so cool when he actually raps that on the track. It sounds so cool. But put part of me in the art like I'm penning an appendage, like hit one of his arms or a limb. Invested since the beginning. So since the beginning, he was invested in his work. He put everything in it. So in the end, he wants a percentage. Most creative pursuits don't get you that much money off of your art. It's unfortunate, but if you make a book, you're probably getting back 5% of the sales if you're lucky. And some art forms is even worse than that. So in the end, you do want at least some percentage, at least a full percentage of something than what you made. But yeah, this is the sad reality of the art business. The music industry, Hollywood, all of them are corrupted in many ways. Yeah, put part of me in the art like I'm penning an appendage. I mean, everybody that makes art, at least true, good art, quality art, is putting some of themselves in it. No matter what you write. You read anything from like Pinocchio. The artist, whoever wrote that book, actually the original book is much darker than the film, but whoever wrote that book put part of himself into it. Just like Kurt Cobain put part of himself into his music. And sometimes people get too deep into it and you get members of the 27 Club, unfortunately. But yeah, most people do put a part of them into their art. Some people a bigger part than others, but penning an appendage is just such a cool way of saying that. When night's over, might know it, dependent with descendants. Was always the same one word when my family got the sentence. Was always the same one word when my family got the sentence. I mean, one word and sentence is a cool play on words there, right? But don't exactly know what he means by that. When he got the sentence from the judge, was always the one word. I'm not too sure. But then he goes into the chorus again, and that's the end of the song. Brilliant writing. Just 2 short verses, and I spent so much time trying to break them down. Hopefully, you guys got something out of that. I hope these song analysis videos are somewhat entertaining for those of you who are watching them. Thank you guys for watching them, by the way. It means a lot. I have a lot of fun making these song analysis videos. I think I got a couple more tracks off of this album, and then I'll be done Descendants of Cain, and then I'll move on to, I'm not too sure what next. Like I said, I might want to do High Power by Kendrick Lamar. I don't know if I'll do all of Section 80. That album's kind of a mixed bag. Not that it's a bad album. I love that album. But yeah, I'll see. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see next. What songs you want me to cover next, or what artists I should look into and maybe break down their work. It's been a lot of fun doing Ka because he's such an amazing poet. But yeah, comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps boost this channel in the algorithm. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one, and peace.